Good afternoon. I would like to call the policy committee to order. And for the record, I would like to do a roll call to make sure we have a quorum. Dean Edwards.
Here.
Sharonda Bullock.
Here.
Lank Dutton.
Here.
All right, we are all here and accounted for. The first thing on the agenda is our agenda for this evening, and we have 5 items to discuss. Are there any objections to the agenda? All right, well then the agenda will stand approved as presented. The second item on the agenda is approval of the minutes. Are there any corrections of the minutes as far as the committee is concerned? All right, the minutes will stand as presented. We will have some policies for first read. Let's see, and they're starting with policy 3102. And we will ask who's taking care of that.
I will.
All right, thank you.
Good afternoon, Committee Chair Bullock, other committee members, and Dr. Ellis. 3102 online instruction in section A, just adding a few words here in the second paragraph in high school and middle school, because we do allow middle school students the opportunity to get a high school credit through an online course as well. So we just needed to make that change. In section B, those are just suggestions that were made by the School Board Association. So we're recommending those. And section C is a new section that we're adding with the changing of our Nash Everywhere Digital Academy to be having its own school code. We felt it necessary to add into a policy there how we're meeting those instructional needs. I'll just read that to you. In accordance with state legislation, students in grades 1 through 12 may enroll in online courses to meet grade level requirements for promotion. Students in grades 1 through 8 will receive live instruction for their core classes through the Nash Everywhere Digital Academy. Elective and special area courses will be delivered through a combination of synchronous and asynchronous instruction. And then students in grades 9-12 will receive their coursework through online platforms taught by local staff and North Carolina certified teachers through Edmonton while continuing to be enrolled in their home high school. All remote academy students will be required to meet the Nash County Public Schools promotion and retention requirements. And then the other thing we did was add the general statute 115C-234 under our legal references. So those are the changes that we're recommending to this policy.
Are there questions about policy 3102? All right,
Thank
you.
Mhm.
The next policy is 6220.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
We just have a few updates and modifications. Some were wording changes that our school nutrition team worked on. For example, on page 1 of 4, number 3, that line, we made some modifications on the title of the book that we do use as a HACCP book, and there were some modifications made there. Just a little change with the verbiage. On page 2, number 11, there has been a modification in some state guidelines. It should be 30 minutes after the final bell rings. So just a little bit with verbiage there. Where number 12, lunch and breakfast programs, we called it the food service programs. That's terminology that we use. Also, number 13, smart snack requirements. Number 14, we did make a change there. Just the words involving and funds. B1, changing Nash Rocky Mount to Nash County. And then finally on page 3, our process and procedures that we have done for a few years now, as it references the email that is sent from the school nutrition office. We send an email to the parents, letting them know if there's any balance that is owed. We also send something or give something to the student when they go through the line. And then instead of the manager having to print these and the school sending out those emails and those letters, that the school pays for, we send those from our school nutrition office because we have some updated information that the schools don't have sometimes. And we also make phone calls from Connect Eds. So we just talked a little bit about that in line 3 or page 3, the verbiage. Instead of on a regular basis, we were trying to do those monthly, but then sometimes we have to send them out every 2 weeks if the amount gets too excessive.
What about number 8? I think there were some corrections there, but you didn't mention.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. I think those were not ours. I think they were state. Yeah, State Department. Instead of 1 month's operating balance, we have at least 2 months operating balance. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. I didn't even went right over the red.
Are there questions for Ms. Miller? All right.
Thank
Hearing
you.
None. Thank you. Policy 6305.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
All right, so policy 6305, if you'll zoom in on this. This has to do with the some of the changes that that were inserted as part of the provisions regarding the CDC requirements for wearing face coverings in school transportation vehicles. Because those requirements by the CDC are no longer in effect, the recommendation is that that particular section, that sentence be deleted at this time. So that is the only change in this particular policy.
Are there questions about policy 6305?
Just, I guess, a point of reference, I know we have some bus drivers that going to want to maintain that it being their bus, that being kind of their ecosystem. Can they do that of the riders? I know this is saying you don't have to, but if it is the bus drivers.
I mean, I think as a legal matter, the bus driver can certainly, set that rule for students while on their bus. I mean, I think, I think that if pressed by a parent or something like that, I mean, I think the basis for that would be the bus driver's preference, right? There is no sort of legal requirement, I guess is the point to be made. But if that's something, the bus driver does have control of the bus while they're riding it. And so, they can set that as a rule if they want to.
So that's not a lawsuit waiting to happen for us as a district.
Ms. Bullock, are you asking removing the requirement to have face coverings on transportation? You're asking if that's not a lawsuit, or having the bus driver?
Having the bus driver insist that the riders wear a mask.
I think that's a good question. It's hard for me to say sometimes if, what is and isn't a lawsuit waiting to happen. I think you may be looking at a parent complaint potentially, and in which case that could be something that is handled from an administrative perspective.
But we were following the DPI
Exactly.
handbook, which means if we take them off, we take them off. So as long as we had been in COVID, we'd use that handbook. So I don't think we would say individual bus drivers could make those decisions. But they probably could say, if you would like to, or they would.
Yeah.
Christy, I see y'all back there. And I don't want to speak out of turn, but I know that was when the handbook left. There are some
Right.
recommendations that they're saying.
Based on the CDC requirement.
Yeah.
Anytime I get across the city, teach out C-bus and they had transportation as a related service, if that driver didn't let that student have access to a service that was on the IP, it means they're not okay.
Mhm. Yeah. And I think Christy makes a good point with that. So I think it's more of a policy matter at this point, but I think it should be something that is, coordinated through the district office.
Well, is that something we might need to let our bus drivers know, that they can ask the students to wear a mask, but they cannot insist upon it? Because I hope we don't, because that is so close, the proximity is so close. But if we should have somebody who does not want to wear his mask, the bus driver needs to understand that she does not have a legal right to insist.
Mhm.
And I'm not sure that they do.
That's a fair point.
And I think when Mr. Hopkins up for a meet with transportation and bus drivers, we just need to go over that this policy can't
Right.
require anyone to wear it. However, if you want to wear yours.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Are there
I
other
got a
questions?
question for Nancy. Can y'all hear me? Yeah, Lindsay, can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir. I can hear you.
All right. From CDC, whoever the guidance is from, is the pandemic in and of itself over with? Has it been rescinded?
Has the pandemic itself been rescinded?
Yes.
The state of emergency has been rescinded by the governor, or at least as well, not quite yet. I think it goes, the state of emergency ends, I believe, August 15th. I need to go back and check that. But yeah, the governor announced, I believe it was last week, that the state of emergency is ending.
And so with that being said, would that whole paragraph come out according to that last sentence?
No, not necessarily, because are you talking about the last sentence talks about applicable guidance from DHHS being rescinded. And so DHHS still has guidance in place. Now I'd need to go back, Dean, and look to see the extent to which that guidance is at least in part, or maybe potentially in full, based on the existence of a state of emergency. And in some cases, for example,
Right.
that there, I'd have to go back and double check that. I don't think it is entirely based on the state of emergency. There may be portions of it that are based on the implementation of a state of emergency, but for practical purposes, DHHS guidance is separate from the governor's orders.
Right. And and it's also separate for different agencies.
Correct.
So that's how I'm just wondering how that affects school systems in and of themselves, and not to get mixed up in DHHS organizational rules and regulations. So that's how come I was just wondering the separation of the two.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think for right now, the way that it's worded, I think it's fine to leave it in there. And I have some guidance. We're working on some guidance, I and my colleagues, regarding the implications for the state of emergency being rescinded. Honestly, the most applicable, the most direct impact has to do with the remote meetings for you all, right? And then also the toolkit, the Safe Schools toolkit. And so,
Right.
I'll certainly, circulate that to Dr. Ellis. But I don't believe that DHHS is entirely based on the state of emergency. So my recommendation would be to leave it in for now. And then to the extent we see DHHS making any changes to, either rescind or amend its guidance, then you can revisit this paragraph.
Okay. All right. What does the part in there mean about the board can rescind it first?
Right. So you as a board, I think that's a great question. So basically it essentially says it can be, the temporary rule stays in effect until the applicable guidance is rescinded from DHHS. I don't have any indication that guidance has been rescinded. Or if you as a board decide we want to go ahead and take out these temporary rules because, we're moving on from this.
Right. And that's how come I was just wondering and making sure that we all realize that that is an option.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Are there other questions? Thank you, Lindsay. Policy 6560.
That is going to be me again.
Okay.
So this is policy 6560 has to do with the sale, the disposition of surplus property. There's two major edits here, or two significant edits. The first is in the first paragraph there. You have an edit that says, property can be disposed of or sold in accordance with the requirements of Article 9, Section 7 of the North Carolina Constitution. That's mostly a legal cover change that's being recommended by the School Boards Association. That Article 9, Section 7 is the provision that says that all monies, within a and I apologize, I don't know it off the top of my head, but essentially says that all funds within a county for the public schools need to remain in the county for the benefit of the students, the school age students of that county. And so essentially it's referenced in this particular policy and in another policy we're going to talk about in a little bit is essentially the making sure that the board is complying with that particular portion of the Constitution. There is some case law, pretty old case law, that suggests, for example, that you can't give away property, essentially. You can't give it away to somebody else because then it would potentially be in violation of this constitutional provision. Again, what I would say is I don't think it's a problematic addition, and of course we would think that the board would be complying with the Constitution anyway. But it's a little bit of a nuanced explanation. I'm happy to take additional questions about that one. The second the second edits here have to do with rules that the superintendent can put in place about the disposition of surplus property. There is some language in the statute that permits the superintendent, either the rules within the statute will be followed by the board or the superintendent, or the superintendent can put in or the board can establish its own rules for disposition of surplus property. And so the edits here are essentially to set up those notice rules for the board to adopt specific notice rules for the disposition of this property. So those are the only two edits for this one, but other than, some legal references down here at the bottom. So I'm happy to take any questions if any of y'all have questions about this one.
Are there questions? All right.
Okay.
Are you doing 7510?
I am not doing 7510. Yep.
Okay, that's
And so
good.
I will cede the floor.
Good afternoon, committee chair and other board members. So beginning with policy 75. Find it. 7430, sorry, regarding substitute teachers. The only change,
Hold on.
I'm sorry, is
Wait a
that the
minute.
one? 7430?
No, we're at 7510.
I'm sorry, I have the wrong one up.
Mine says 7430.
Mine says 7430 on the list of order here. Okay, so 7510. Let me pull that one up. Okay. I'm sorry about that. This one focuses on leave for our employees, and the only change in this policy relates to the temporary requirements for COVID. And it does put or when we have a test positive for COVID or we have COVID symptoms. It has removed the COVID-19 exposures. It also removes that we are with the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction. And those are the only changes made to this policy. Any questions for that one?
Questions?
Okay. It's-
Now, it's 7520. Which are the ones with minor changes on Dr. Barra?
7430, 7520, 7541, and 7810 as a group for minor changes. We had mix up in this policy
7540. Okay, I got it here.
Those are not even on my sheet. Actually, hold on. 7430, 7541,
7520,
and what was the other one?
7810.
Okay, 7430, 7541, 7520, and 7810. Those are the four with minor changes. Thank you.
And then this board, we have 2302,
Yes,
okay, 730, 7340, 6125.
wait a minute, where are you? I'm trying to follow on my sheet.
Those are ones that they added this board. Those are not in that I fixed through you. Those are ones that they added in as additional.
Well, I know about the 2302. But what other ones are you saying?
7340
Okay,
and 6125,
okay,
and then 5028 slash 6130.
5028/6130.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that all?
7267.
7267. Are there others?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So what about 7520?
That is in the minor.
That's minor. Okay. 7540. What about that one?
That was up next.
All right. Y'all make this so hard for me. I like things in, as they say, decently and in order. This is not. All right, 7540.
Okay, so that policy is the voluntary shared leave policy. There are a few changes to this policy. And it does include in the first paragraph, we do add and other authorized individuals. And we also add after fellow employees or other authorized individuals. Those are the only changes to this policy.
Are there questions about 7540?
Just, is this something that happens all?
Yes, sir.
Mhm.
Yes, sir. Yep. Especially if it's medical reasons. Yes.
Like 7550?
7550, that policy is absences due to inclement weather. There are quite a few changes to this policy. And the first part of this policy, number 5, it does remove or. 6, it does include telework in accordance with policy 7503, teleworking or. It does add a 7, and it says only with supervisor's approval. The employee and immediate supervisor must mutually agree upon a makeup time. Employees who are non-exempt under the Fair Labor Standards Act may make up missed time only if the time will be made up within the work week established by the board. See policy 7500, workday and overtime. Teachers and other employees who are classified as exempt under the Fair Labor Standards Act must make up the time within 120 days or before the end of the employment contract, whichever is sooner. It does remove the next paragraph altogether. Come down to the next paragraph where it says when the school system is closed, it does include options within the requirements of the law. And the legal references, it does add the Fair Labor Standards Act of 1938 as amended according to those statutes, and cross references includes workday and overtime policy 7500 and teleworking policy 7503. And we will add a revision date. This is approved.
Are there questions? Okay, then 7620.
Okay, 7620 is payroll deductions, and Mr. Hale and I were gonna kind of tackle this one together. And the reason for that is primarily all of the deductions come through human resources regarding benefits, and then it is sent to payroll so that they can code them correctly and the accurate deductions are removed. So it does add in the first paragraph that the following types of salary deductions is there. If we come down to number 5, it does remove court ordered or other court ordered. Come down to number 7, it removes that line item altogether, health insurance premiums authorized by state law. It takes out 7, but substitutes 7 with number 8 and substitutes 8 with number 9. Then there North Carolina 457 plan, and that's according to the general statutes. Number 12, it removes life for life insurance premiums. 13, it removes group dental insurance premiums authorized by general statute. But it does add another 13, a 12-month pay option for 10 and 11-month employees authorized by general statute 115. We no longer offer that, but they can go through the local credit union and agree to have deductions to be taken from their monthly payments so that they can have a payment in the 10th and 11th month. 14, dues or contributions to employees associations that meet the minimum membership requirements as described by General Statute 143B. There's a new 15 and a new 16 that includes required by law or approved by the board. It also includes not meeting the minimum membership requirements described in statute or donations to charities. And there's a new 17 that removes deductions to and adds recoupment of. There are some legal references changes. And that is it for that particular policy.
Question,
Yes.
going back to the 12 months.
Pay
Holding
option.
pay
Mhm.
option.
Mhm.
Why did we stop that? Because over the years, that seemed to be one of the favorable things I always heard about our district.
It was not option. That was authorized by the state.
To stop it.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wanna add?
Well, excuse me. I just wanted to add that what typically the school districts would do, we would take a 10-month employees and we would pull so much out each month and put it in escrow to be
Mhm.
paid out in the 11th and 12th months. State has done away with that. Several years ago, they authorized what they used to call the lovingly the summer cash program, where employees could contribute to that themselves by putting it into a credit union account. And they could adjust the amount that they wanted to put in based on needs or whatever during the summer months. But as I said, the state has done away with the installments, and now this is still an option. By statute, unless the statute has changed, we are still
That's right.
obligated to offer an installment option like this, but we no longer do it as through payroll process. That is putting money in escrow. We offer this to the employees now so they can do it on their own.
Okay.
And they have more flexibility as to how much they want to put away.
All right. Thank you, sir. Are there other questions?
No, ma'am.
Then the next policy is 7810.
Is it 7810 or 7815 I have, Ms. Bullock?
Well, I've got
Okay.
7810 and I've gotten
78
actually confused. So
7810 is a minor one.
a
I
minor.
have 7815.
all right, then 7815.
If I can find it. Okay, it is evaluation of non-licensed employees. And the changes to this policy primarily comes in the number 5 item. And it does make some additions there, includes decisions related to promotions, reassignments, or see policy 7440, assignments, reassignments, transfers. It removes promotions and it adds suspensions, or it removes and demotion of employees. It includes C policy 7940, classified personnel suspension and dismissal and reduction in force. C policy 7921, classified personnel reduction. Employee decisions may be made by the board and administrators regardless of whether evaluators have followed the evaluation system, so long as there's a legally sufficient basis for the decision. In the cross-reference, it does include assignments, reassignments, transfers, policy 7440, and it does include classified personnel reduction policy 7921. Those are the only changes to this policy.
Are there questions?
Yeah.
All right, the next policy is 8320.
You get to see me again. All right, so,
Welcome.
hello. So this is a sentence that's been added. There's a new general statute or a revisions to the general statute about how state funds that are provided to school systems, how they may actually, typically they were held by the state until the school system would actually pay them out to whoever they were paying them out to. The statute now allows school systems to actually deposit those into a local account, but they have to pay them out within 3 days of having deposited them. And so essentially this sentence simply just says that the board, the school system is going to comply with those requirements if we take those monies and deposit them into our official depositories.
Are there questions? All right, 9400.
All right, 9400. This is similar to what we spoke about with respect to 6560 and the surplus property. The edits here go to that same issue that the School Boards Association has flagged, making sure that to the extent that the board is selling or disposing of surplus property, that it's doing so in accordance with Article 9, Section 7 of the North Carolina Constitution, essentially saying, we're not going to give away property, basically. However, there is still, if you look, there is still language that says, we can, we'll give the county commissioners first opportunity to obtain any real property at either the fair market price or a price negotiated between the two boards. But there has to be some consideration essentially for any real property that's provided to the county.
Are there questions?
Okay.
Thank you. Now,
That ends the page.
Yeah, I said I would run through the minor ones really quickly with you all.
let me make sure I got all the.
You got it, absolutely.
7430, 7541, 7520, and 7810.
That is correct.
That's correct.
You are keeping up.
I'm trying hard,
That's right.
real hard.
All right, so 7430 and 7541. So 7430 only makes changes to the legal references there. So that's just an addition to the legal reference to the benefits and policy manual. And then 7541, I believe, makes the same change to the legal references. Yep. So those are the only two edits for those policies. 7520, it's a lot of really little nit edits is kind of what we call them. So just like a comma here, a word change here. There is one that I wanted to draw to your attention quickly. If you scroll down to M, section M. Yeah, there is a clarification right there in section 3. Where it says an employee must not be permitted to use paid leave as opposed to exhaust paid leave. So it's just a clarification that seems fairly important there. But that's the only other than these other little nit edits throughout this policy, those are the only edits here. And then 7810. Has the same, so you looked with Miss Wallace, looked at cross references. So if you look here in the evaluation of non-licensed employees, there were all of these cross references. Same thing is happening in this particular policy. So it's just cross references to other policies. And then some legal cross references here in the references below. So, but those are the only changes to those 4 policies.
Are there questions about those 4 policies?
Okay.
Well, these policies are all for first read, so we will go ahead and vote on them. And I'm going to call out the number to make sure that we have all the numbers covered. 3102, 6220, 6305, 6560, 7510, 7540, 7550, 7620, 7815, 8320, 9400. Those are all the policies with substantial changes, right? All right, then we have policy number 7430, 7541, 7520, and 7810 with minor changes. Is there a motion to recommend to the board that we approve these policies for first read?
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded that we recommend to the full board approval of the policies as outlined for first read. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
I'm sorry. Did we need to not wait the 30 days in any of these?
Now, I thought I said 30 days for the first read. If I didn't say that, I do mean I'll wait for 30 days.
You did. Are there any that we don't need to wait 30 days? I guess I always ask
I
that.
guess not. No one said anything about it. No.
I don't believe there are any that you would need to waive the 30-day requirement.
Okay. So all in favor say aye. I think I heard Dean say aye.
Can you hear me?
Aye. Yes, thank you.
Yes,
Unanimous vote. We will recommend to the board that we approve these. The next item on the agenda is policy 2302. And I'm not exactly sure what we're supposed to be doing with this policy. Can anybody help me with that? Who's got this policy?
So last time we met, we discussed it and asked Lindsay if she would review it in a little bit more detail and bring it back to us.
Yeah. All right, Lindsay.
Okay. No, that's fine. I mean, this is the one that we talked about. I don't know there. I think that, we had the, I apologize, board members. This is the one where we had some language that we were planning to potentially add to this particular policy. And what I'm not sure about is whether that language is actually incorporated into the version that is on the policy or on the online.
I do know that the discussion came forth because the statement was made that board members were required to attend the meetings and not attend virtually. And I think the point that was trying to be made was that there should not be no more than 3 exceptions, if I remember correctly. And that was what we were supposed to be addressing.
That's
I
correct.
remember now.
And I apologize. I just pulled up the edits that that we had discussed at the last board meeting and that I had made, it does not appear that they got, we can make sure that they get added to the agenda. But what I can do is if you look at, if we scroll down to section C, subsection C3, where it says no board member.
Yeah, that's the one.
And I apologize. I'm wondering, Dr. Farrow, is there a way for me to, I think I had sent you a copy of this one. Is there a way for us to pull it up for the board members to take a look at it? Because what I don't want to do is not have it up for them to look at. I can read it to you all, but it'd be easier to take a look at it.
And at our last meeting, while he's pulling that up, at the last policy meeting, we talked about this and we came up with some verbiage. But when I was looking for my copy last time, I filed it and I could not remember where I filed it. It evidently did not go where it was supposed to go. So I had to get another copy today from Sarita.
This book, what the conversation was around last time is C3.
Right.
And I think some misunderstanding about
What it means.
the 1A through I, and you can miss up to 3 meetings that aren't included in those 8 pieces. And I mean, one of them is literally a scheduling conflict, which I would think would cover just about anything, any reason for not being there.
So the
Yeah.
only thing that I think isn't covered is if you just don't want to attend. I mean, everything else is pretty much covered.
Yeah.
Anything outside of those things, you have 3 times to just say, I don't want to be here. But everything else should be covered. So if you have a scheduling conflict, you have work, you don't have childcare, everything else is covered. And I think it's 2022, and I think that's acceptable just as it stands. Correct me if I don't know if you agree or disagree.
I think we just would want to clarify that at our board meeting under policy next week
And what we've done, and again, my apologies, what we've done is we've made some edits to clarify that to subsection C. So essentially, and I can read them out. So essentially what that subsection C3 would simply say is, except for the reasons set forth in subsection C1, no board member may participate remotely more than 3 times during a calendar year, but that would allow for those exceptions in
Okay,
C1.
and that would make this one make sense.
Exactly.
Okay.
And
I'm
then there is some language that we're proposing to add at the end. It says, however, the board may by simple majority vote agree to waive this limitation in other justifiable circumstances, and any board member who is seeking waiver of the provision shall notify the board chair and superintendent pursuant to the process set out in subsection D of the policy. And subsection D of the policy has that procedure for remote participation, and has a section that talks about this. Were you able to find it, Dr. Farah? I apologize for that. There we go.
So number 3 covers if I just don't want to come.
Essentially, yes.
So the other reasons are valid. reasons.
Exactly. Exactly. Yes. So you have 3, I just don't want to comes per school, per school year. And then the rest of them now, but the board can waive it. Oh, now we need to be able to show it. Can you show? Yeah. Can you show the red line?
Plus the option.
There we go. This is yes, exactly. So this is the language. This is the proposed revised language that I just read out to you.
very simple. Are there questions about policy 2302? That is separate agenda items, so we will vote on that separately. Is there a motion that we recommend to the full board that we approve policy 2302 and waive the 30-day wait.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded that we recommend to the full board that we approve policy 2302 as presented and waive the 30-day wait. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Dean?
Aye.
All right, motion carried, majority vote. I'm sorry. We're good with that one, but I would like you to, I would like to have a copy of that. Okay. So that when the report is made, and I may ask Lindsay to do that. It's simple enough, straightforward enough, but even so. Policy 7340. Ms. Wallace.
So again, as an attempt to get back to a professional attire, now that we are, I guess, post-COVID somewhat, we have worked with Lindsay to make sure that we are staying within our guidelines and our rights to update our employee dress and appearance policy. She did provide us with policies as examples for surrounding districts. So this is what we have for you. In the first paragraph, we will add must be gender neutral. The third item may authorize exemptions from the guidelines for employees performing specialized duties that require a different form of dress. And 4, must provide a process for offering reasonable accommodations when required by law. The next paragraph, we do include an employee supervisor will make an initial determination of whether an employee's attire or appearance is appropriate. In making this determination, the supervisor will consider the following factors. Remove the parts of the various factors. Number 1, the first part is removed and we add the nature of the work. Number 2, the first part is removed. We add whether the dress is consistent with the professional environment. Number 3, the first part is removed and we add health and safety factors. Number 4, first part is removed and we add the nature of the employee's public contact and the normal expectations of outside parties with whom the employee will work. Number 5, the first part is removed. The employee's interactions with students is added. Number 6, flip-flops are removed. The prevailing practices of other workers in similar jobs and is added. 7, the first part is removed. Any properly established guidelines for dress or appearance is added. On the next part, this is redundant somewhat, but it's in a different area, so all of that is removed. And the only part that is in level B right now is the supervisor determines that the employee's dress or appearance violates the established guidelines or is hazardous to the health or safety of the employee. Fellow employees or students, the supervisor should counsel the employee regarding attire that is consistent with this policy and shall determine whether the employee is allowed to remain at work or must leave work to change his or her dress. Any failure to follow the supervisor's directives and a blatant to or repeated violations of this policy will subject the employee to disciplinary actions up to and including dismissal. No changes to C and D, and the legal references has been updated as well as a revised date.
Other questions?
I don't know if I have a question. I've gotten more emails about this and I feel like I got about COVID. So is it enforced? Just kind of that there seems in reading through it, it looks like we've taken out some pretty specific things and kind of made some general requirements as far as which maybe makes it a little bit more subjective.
No.
Versus.
It's very vague here now based on guidance from the attorneys. However, in our handbook, it's specific to some of those items that have been removed from the policy. And it has been reviewed with principals with the expectations of the superintendent.
And just to kind of add on to that, I think that part of the reason is this is more consistent with what other boards are doing, is basically giving the superintendent more flexibility to set those very specific appearance code requirements, as opposed to having it codified in board policy, having the specifics codified in board policy.
So it doesn't say flip flops, but in a principals meeting, we discuss, you can't wear flip flops. So that's where we were more specific. Same as the students' dress code, so
It is in the handbook, the employee's handbook.
we can share that.
Mhm.
Probably.
It's on the website. Mhm. And we do request that we waive the 30-day because our staff will be back in the building soon. And we're asking that we waive the 30-day where it has to sit for 30 days, this policy.
Is there a motion then that we approve policy 7340? And we recommend to the board that they approve it and waive the 30-day wait.
So
It's been moved and seconded that we recommend to the full board that we approve policy 7340 and waive the 30-day wait. Are there any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Dean?
Thank you.
And aye for me. Motion carried. Thank you. Now we have policy 6125, 5028/6130, /7267. Christie.
Yes, good afternoon. We are bringing before the committee this afternoon the two policies, and I'll start with policy 6125, which is administering medicine to students. And the only change we made to that policy was to add under section C, the student self-administering medications. The right for students with cystic fibrosis to give their own, to be able to self-administer the pancreatic enzyme replacement medication. So that is something we have seen recently that students would be able to self-administer the medication for. And that's the only change to that policy.
And we'll do all of them.
Okay. Perfect. And then the next policy, which is 5028 /6030/7267, is the policy for AEDs, automated external defibrillator. And the only change we made in that was under number 1, that we do not need a licensed physician in the state of North Carolina to we don't have to consult with them for AEDs. We actually use ones that are on the approved list as specified within that section. So we just removed that one sentence there, and that's it.
Are there questions? I have one question. These policies, will they be on the agenda listed separately as they are now? Do you know?
I'm not sure. Doesn't matter to me.
I'm just curious.
They can be put all together. Oh, they can be put all
Because
together.
this is not, we don't
Mhm.
need to waive the 30-day wait on these
Right.
either, is that
Right.
correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So we can put all of the
Mhm.
policies together that we don't need to waive. And then the one that we do need to waive, that can be separate
Perfect.
from the others.
We don't. We're good. We have to get all the medical stuff in place anyway for the cystic fibrosis. I think we'll be good with that.
All right. Is there a motion that we recommend to the full board that we approve policy 6125, policy 5028/6130/7267 for approval? Dean? Aye. It has been moved and properly seconded that we recommend to the board that we approve policies as listed above. And that they lay on the table for 30 days. that concludes our agenda. Are there any questions or comments? Oh, did we not vote? I thought we
We
voted.
sort of did a combination of moving and voting on that one.
Oh, I
So
did.
I would, yeah, I would do a vote just to make sure.
I saw the end down here. Okay, policy 6125, policy 5028/6130/7267. Is there a motion that we recommend to the full board approval of these policies and they lay on the table for 30 days?
Well,
All
we-
in favor, say aye. Aye. Jane? Sorry about
Miss
that.
Evelyn,
Yes, sir.
it sounded like you were looking for another motion again.
I don't know what I was looking for, Dean, to be honest with you. I don't know.
I mean, I'm just going along. I'm trying to be a team player, but I swear it sounded like you looked for a motion again and you didn't have a discussion. Just trying to help you out.
I appreciate it. I need all the help I can get. So it's been moved and properly seconded that we vote, and we have voted. So we will recommend to the full board that they approve these policies and they lay on the table for 30 days. Now, did I do that right that time?
I think we're covered.
Sorry about that, y'all. If there's nothing more to claim our attention, I will declare the meeting adjourned. Thank you so much for your attendance.
Thank you, Evelyn.
Have a great evening.